Welcome back. Napoli have agreed a deal with Manchester United for midfielder Scott McTominay. The fee is understood to be worth over £25 million plus significant sell-ons. Once personal terms are agreed, it'll be up to McTominay to decide if he wants to go. If all goes through, it will aid Man United's move for Manuel Ugarte from PSG. Flex, Scott McTominay, a Man United boy. Would you be sad to see him go?
From that perspective of coming up through the academy to make north of 200 appearances for Manchester United and has always done his best, always put in a shift, never created any drama or anything like that. From that perspective, yes. I think there was a role for Scott McTominay last year that I think Erik ten Hag done really well to identify. And some people can see it as, well, on the bench. Well, no, there's a little bit more than that in terms of being a goal threat, coming off of the bench and impacting games late on, and being able to dig the team out of holes. And he's someone who's a top pro, top professional. Other youngsters can learn off him. He sets a good example around the dressing room. In a dressing room, actually, that's not had a lot of leadership in it and some bad examples to follow with different things happening with certain players. Scott McTominay is definitely a good egg. But in terms of where Manchester United want to be and the type of football Erik ten Hag wants to play, I think a lot of Manchester United fans would probably see it as a step in a new direction, a different direction.
Do you not think he'd be a good squad player, though?
Yes.
Like, even the role he played last year, if he's happy with that,
yeah.
To have a player like that can impact off the bench, which sometimes we know is difficult. So why is it? Do you think it's FFP reasons?
I think that's one reason, but also I do think it's an overall quality thing as well. I think if you're looking to catch the top sides, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, etc., you have to look at it and say, would Scott McTominay be in their squads as a squad player? Maybe, potentially not. And that's not to knock any of McTominay's abilities, like I said, because he can offer you something. He's going to be a good Premier League player. He has been a good Premier League player and had a good Premier League career, and looks as though he may go off to Napoli in a different direction. But I think it does, obviously, of course, have financial implications because it's 100% profit. But in terms of bringing in Manuel Ugarte, if that domino of Scott McTominay falls, and that's more what Manchester United need. I think we've seen Scott McTominay play deep in a pivot with Fred for long periods at Manchester United. It wasn't the best in terms of him breaking up play or him progressing the ball. That's not his strength. We actually found what his strength was, which was playing a little bit further ahead. But at Manchester United, we have Bruno, we have Mason Mount, we have two other forwards in Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund. And Scott deserves to play. So I think it's just a natural time, the right time for him to move on. But to answer your original question, would I be sad to see him go? Yes, as a Manchester United lad, but in terms of the overall quality and the direction Man United want to go in, I think it's the right time.
Dan, 25 mil, it looks like it's going to be around that with significant sell-on. Is that good, or is that fee good or bad for someone like Scott McTominay, who's not? I don't think he's in the last year of his contract, or he is with an option to extend for another year. So
2 years left. You would say on his contract. Probably about right, maybe a little bit more, I would say, when you look at Oliver Skipp going to Leicester for around the same fee. I'd say there's a better body of work for McTominay. He's a bit older, yes, but there's been more evidence of work in the Premier League for McTominay. So I don't think it's a bad fee by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Manchester United obviously just keen to offload him because they need to accelerate now with only 5 days left because they want Ugarte. So I think they probably had to move quite quickly and maybe take 5 million less than that they would have wanted to have accepted. But Flex comes into the office every window bemoaning Manchester United not getting in transfer fees. They just don't get enough in for the players. But actually, looking back since Ten Hag's come in, if you look at some of the players that they've sold and some of the fees that they have extracted, it feels like it's something they have got slightly better at. I'm not saying they're at the level of Manchester City or Chelsea getting fees for players sold, but up until recently, Dan James was one of the only players they'd sold for a big fee. Over the last few windows now, Flex, I would say a lot of them, they have got decent fees in for players without it being really, really extravagant.
I think this was one of the key things for Ineos to come in and try and fix. And the problem that you've got at Manchester United is that Man United have not been where they want to be for a very long time and have been subpar. So therefore, players who have been part of that aren't always deemed as, the best players to kick on at somewhere else. But also, the decisions that Manchester United have made with player contracts and extensions and wages have also made it doubly difficult to move players on, and players are saying, you know, where's my payout? I don't need to move yet. We've seen it, and players are 100% right in their circumstances to say, well, if you want me to leave and I'm not ready to, where's the rest of it coming from? And that's where Manchester United have been a little bit of a hole. So it is something that Ineos are trying to improve on. I think with the players that Man United have got in their squad now, a lot of it is sort of damage limitation because the bad decisions have been made before Ineos got here. So you kind of have to take what you can get, and that's similar to what we're seeing with Scott McTominay in terms of would have liked it to be more, but in the grand scheme of things, with 5 days left in the window, you have to start almost taking what you can get and start taking what you can get and start again.
I think it was just a matter of time before Scott McTominay left Manchester United. You know, you don't need to rewrite history. You know, Man United were talking to West Ham about selling him this time last summer. They were talking to Fulham about selling him this time last summer. Fulham were looking at him again in this window. For me, it was just a matter of time before they ended up moving him on, and it was more about what price United could get for him. And I actually think the price that they are getting for him is a sizable one, and for me, it's a good fee that they're getting for Scott McTominay.
They lost on Saturday, obviously, to Brighton. Sorry, Flex.
It was unlucky.
It was unlucky. The offside goal was actually very unlucky. Did you watch that game, Dave, and think that it was clear Manchester United needed additions?
No, not particularly. I thought United were well in the game, as you mentioned. They could have potentially won it. They've lost the game to a second phase set piece, which can happen. You know, you can probably, if you are going to pick holes in it, you can point to maybe lack of organisation or, you know, lack of leaders, Roy Keane might say, if you're organising yourself in the second phase. But United were well in the game. I thought particularly first half, they were nice and compact and aggressive defending. And, you know, I think some of the reaction from Manchester United fans that have maybe gone a little bit over the top and a little bit negative to that result, I think you have to remember that this is 8th versus 11th. It's not Manchester United top four or chasing the title. This is a different kind of Manchester United team. And I thought they were well in the game and could have won it. I don't think there's any need for an over-the-top kind of reaction to that performance.
Obviously, we mentioned Manuel Ugarte. That's the midfielder that the Manchester United want and looks like it might be close to being done. You said Scott McTominay is perhaps not the player for what Man United want to do. So why is Manuel Ugarte a better fit?
Yeah, it was always the plan. I think he just excels in regains. He excels in physical duels. He can get on the front foot. He's very, very mobile and combative, and he adds much needed physicality to Man United's midfield, and that's exactly why they've been after him all window, and looks like it's going to get done.